All right, welcome to another episode of Getting Real in the Field. This is the show where we talk about all the things that you hate to do, which is following up, making phone calls, texting, emailing, and doing all the things that is required to have a successful real estate career. And I am your host, JP Fluellen, and this is Khek.
I like the bravado.
All right, so, or Khek.
Oh man. Okay, so we're gonna do a quick Q&A from the audience that gives us topics. So I appreciate our audience giving us the ideas. And for tonight, I'll start with the first one. And this is all to do with lead generation, guys. So how much money should I spend on lead gen?
Okay, so it's funny. I actually was just at a conference and one of the gals was asked this exact same question. She's like, how much should I spend? And so one of the things you got to determine is whether you're spending money on specifically lead generation, because lead generation is different than branding, spending money on branding, which is also different than spending money on marketing or advertising. So branding, lead generation, and advertising are three different ways to get people to know who you are and whether they're willing to do business with you. Yeah. So you got to determine how much is what it's worth for you to achieve those specific goals. So if you are specifically spending money on lead generation is getting people to reach out to you because you've given them some reason outside of who you are, whether they know, like, and trust you, and whether they are familiar with your brand or not. Yeah. So that is lead generation. So in my opinion, lead generation can cost anywhere between, $3 to $4 a lead up to $600 a lead. Now, the difference is the more money you spend, the higher, in theory, the quality of that lead.
Yeah,
but the challenge is that if you are good at the follow-up game, which is what we're all talking about here, is the follow-up game, is the better you are at the follow-up game, the less money you will spend on those leads that are coming in. So then the question becomes what is a lead? Yeah. Right? So a lead, in my opinion, which is, the right opinion, which is...
Of course. We're all listening. We're listening.
Which is a name, a phone number, and an email. So if you have those three things and that they are verified, that they're good, that is a lead. And some people will argue, okay, well, once it's a lead, how does it become a client or a prospect? Which is you're starting to have conversation, you're on a regular cadence with follow-ups, you've got them on automation and drips and things like that are going to, so you're not losing that lead that's come in to someone else or to someone else's lead generation campaign, things like that.
Yeah.
So I would say the sweet spot, in my opinion, is, that range between, if you're doing a traditional, like, online campaign, whether it's PPC or Facebook, which is somewhere between $3 and $8 a lead, versus if you're using a company that is selling impressions, and we all know who those companies are, you're spending anywhere between $300 to $500 per, like, hot lead.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to take a different perspective. I think that you need to figure out, and I'll give you a different perspective on this one. I think that in terms of, you're right, you got to spend money on lead generation, and then you got to start building your brand at the same time too. Because if you do, to me, lead generation is the fastest way to get you leads that are going to hopefully transact quickly, right away. Whereas brand building is more about the long play, right? Like, hey, farming, building your reputation and stuff like that. I do think that you need to do both. And if, I'll give a couple of rule of thumbs. For me, I think that you need to decide anywhere from 50-50 split of brand building and lead generation, or starting out, you might be hungry and you really need to get more money and you don't have a lot of money to spend on brand building, then do a 60-40 or 70-30 split. Then adjust it over time. That would be one rule of thumb. As for like, from a marketing, like lead generation, I think that the audience was asking that, how much should I spend on lead gen? I would kind of say it really depends. I wouldn't spend, I would spend anywhere between 10 to 15% to acquire a customer. So if I'm going to make, let's say, hey, if I'm going to make, my commission gross GCI of 50 grand, 50 grand is my GCI, then I should be able to easily spend anywhere from $5,000 to $7,500 to acquire that customer. I know it sounds like a lot.
So for the year, if you're gonna spend 50 grand for the year, if you want to make 50 grand, you should spend $7,500 a year.
Yeah, right. So you gotta think about like how much you want. What's your target? What's your GCI? Spend 10 to 15% of that to acquire customers, and then do the and figure out that's your budget that you would spend to kind of acquire and hit those targets. Right.
Sure. Yeah, and I would say part of that too is, again, like branding can be built for free these days.
Yep.
Absolutely. Everybody's got a phone in their pocket, and
Instagram.
everybody has access to free social media. You can build your brand for free.
Yep. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all those can be done for free, right? And then one last thing I'm going to say about that 10 to 15%. There's a saying that if you spend less than 10% of it, that means that you're not spending enough to generate more business for yourself. And if you spend more than 15%, that means you're spending too much that could eat into your profits. So as a rule of thumb, I kind of stay within 10 to 15% overall.
All right.
Okay.
I like it.
Hope that helps, guys. Give us your feedback, hit subscribe, and we will be producing more of these Q&As to kind of hopefully help you guys.